I enjoyed hearing everybody's testimony. I want to thank the witnesses and Chairman, thank you for holding this important discussion. Um, and it is important. I don't have to be Black to be concerned about the disparity, the gap in wealth for my fellow Americans who happen to be Black, or of any color. I want Americans to succeed. And I think that's the prevailing view of Americans, by the way, is that we want everybody to realize their greatest God-given potential and feel like they can pursue their dreams and realize as much success as the next person by putting in the hard work, et cetera, et cetera. But the reality is there's a gap, and I acknowledge that. What I'm trying to discern is how much of that is based on systemic policies, laws, systemic societal sort of public policy issues versus the other factors, systemic factors in the Black community. And I've read the data like everybody else about children born out of wedlock and the marriage rates that were the same as whites and Hispanics in the 1960s. Now it's significantly lower. I've read about the higher, disproportionately higher crime rates among Black Americans. And so, for me, my first question is I think all too often, folks, we think that the federal government's going to solve all this. Just because we passed laws that said it is illegal to discriminate doesn't mean that we were able to change the hearts of people. And so there were lingering effects in our society. And by the way, racism, discrimination, segregation, deplorable, intolerable, and by the way, illegal. So Mr. Rowe, let me just ask you, what do you, if you were going to sort of gauge the factors of law and policy versus systemic issues, familial issues, norms in the Black community, where would that fall? Is it 50-50? Is it half the laws we need to change and then half the Black community sort of norms that need to change from the grassroots up in terms of family, community, institutions? So I'll stop there because that's a long-winded question. I hope that makes sense.
Well, thank you for the question. Let me actually just first say that in 2019, only 1/3 of all 8th grade students in our country scored proficient on the National Assessment of Progress in Reading, often referred to as the nation's report card. And since it was first administered in 1992, less than half of the nation's white students in 4th, 8th, and 12th grades scored proficient in reading. I mean, consider that. There has never been a majority of white kids reading at grade level. So the sad irony, if you look at education as one example of a gap, the sad irony is that closing the Black-white achievement gap in terms of academic outcomes in reading would simply mean that Black kids are going from sub-mediocrity to full mediocrity, right? So this obsession with the gaps ignores the fact that a lot of kids of all races are not doing well, and that's the foundation. And so we have to be careful because it's not because of systemic racism that the majority of white kids in our country for generations have not been able to read at grade level. There must be other factors, both policy-wise and norm-wise. I mean, in terms of family structure, it certainly is true that non-marital birth rates are a factor. My research focuses on non-marital births to women aged 24 and under. In 2019, for the 10th consecutive year, at least 70% of births to all women in that age group were outside of marriage, according to the CDC. By race, the non-marital birth rate for Black women 24 and under was 91%. It was 61% for white women aged 24 and under. This is an equal opportunity tsunami. In addition, nearly 40% of unmarried women aged 24 and under who gave birth in 2019 were already mothers, giving birth to at least their second child. Given these multiple births, unmarried women aged 24 and under who gave birth in 29 alone were raising an estimated 850,000 to 1 million children, according to CDC. And look, there's no guarantee that being a single mom means that you're doomed to failure, nor does it mean that being a child of married two-parent households is a guarantee for success. But the data is overwhelming. This pattern of out-of-wedlock childbearing is often established at a young age. Almost 2/3 in 2019, 64% of first out-of-wedlock births were to women 24 and under. Like kids of teen mothers, these children are at much greater risk of experiencing child poverty, poor education, lack of upward mobility, traumatic stress, and many other adverse childhood experiences that impede their ability to generate wealth later in life. We just have to be honest about these conversations. If we want to reduce such risks and mitigate the economic distress that usually ensues for both parent and child of all races, this is not just a Black problem, we must educate adolescents about the likely outcomes associated with different behaviors and encourage them to think critically about the steps and timing of family formation.
Well said. Thank you so much, Chairman, for the indulgence, and again to the witnesses. Thank you, guys, and God bless.